She was on her knees on blistering concrete that burned through her jeans like fire. Her hands were locked tight behind her back, steel cuffs cutting deep into her skin. The air was dry, heavy with dust, and every breath tasted like heat. Sheriff Tom Briggs pressed the heavy sole of his boot against her shoulder blade and laughed. Not a nervous chuckle. Not even the laugh of a man amused. It was the cruel sound of someone who believed no one could ever touch him. Her badge slid across the pavement, the metal scraping against stone before it came to rest in plain sight. It was unmistakable. An FBI badge. The sheriff picked it up with 2 fingers, held it out to his deputies, and let his voice drip with mockery. FBI, he sneered. Prove it, sweetheart. The deputies joined in with laughter of their own. One of them pulled out his phone and began recording. Around them, a small crowd had gathered at the gas station, a family getting snacks for their kids, a couple of truckers leaning against their rigs, a young man holding up his phone to film. Yet not a single person stepped forward. Nobody dared to interfere. To them, she was just another outsider. Another nosy journalist who had gotten herself into trouble. That was the story Briggs wanted them to believe. And in a town like this, where silence was survival, nobody was brave enough to challenge him, but they were wrong. She wasn't just a journalist. Her name was Sarah Blake, and for 18 months she had been collecting something more dangerous than weapons, proof, records, evidence that could topple an empire of corruption that had ruled this town for over 2 decades. This isn't a story about violence. It isn't a story about backup arriving in the nick of time. This is the story of a woman who fought back with nothing but the truth and nearly lost her life for daring to reveal it. Welcome to Oak Ridge, Texas, a border town of 32,000, where the sun bakes the streets and the sheriff's word carries more weight than the law itself. It began on a Tuesday afternoon, 2:14 p.m., hot wind blowing dust across Route 84. Sarah had just finished topping off her rental sedan at a Chevron station. She checked the mirrors, a habit burned into her after nearly 2 years of living undercover. Both taillights intact, the fuel cap secure. Nothing left to chance. Then she saw it. A patrol car sliding in behind her, lights flashing but no siren. Just the silent demand to submit. A man stepped out. Mid-30s, tall, with mirrored aviator sunglasses that reflected nothing back but her own face. Deputy Raul Vega. His stride carried the swagger of someone who had never once been told no. He didn't greet her. Didn't explain. He simply said, "License and registration." Sarah kept her hands visible on the wheel. Calm, steady. "Of course, officer." "May I ask why I'm being stopped?" "Taillights out," he replied, his jaw tightening as if daring her to argue. She glanced into the side mirror. Both lights were glowing red against the afternoon glare. She knew it because she had checked them that very morning, the way she checked everything. Still, she kept her voice even. "I believe they're working, officer, but I'm happy to step out and check them with you." His mouth twitched. "You calling me a liar?" "Not at all," she said softly. "Just offering to verify." His silence was colder than a shout. Then without another word, he snatched her documents and walked back to his car. Sarah remained still, both hands at 10 and 2. Her heart beat steady, though she could feel the tension buzzing through her veins. Time dragged. 5 minutes, 10, then 20. The gas station attendant had retreated inside. Customers gave her nervous glances and then hurried away. By the time 40 minutes passed, 2 more vehicles had arrived. One a patrol car, the other a black Ford pickup with a sheriff's star stamped across its side. The door swung open. Out stepped Sheriff Tom Briggs, 55 years old, weathered face like leather left too long in the sun. His silver hair was cropped military short, his badge pinned crookedly on his chest as though rules were beneath him. Every move he made was deliberate, calculated to remind people who held power here. A hush fell over the small crowd. Children paused mid-bite on their snacks. A trucker set his soda down and stood straighter. Briggs carried with him an authority so absolute that even silence bent around him. He didn't bother to look at Sarah's documents. He didn't even ask her name. He studied her through the car window, eyes sharp, then gave a single command. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am." Sarah moved slowly, every gesture measured, her palms kept open and visible. She had been trained for moments like this. "Deputy Vega says you've been acting hostile," Briggs said, his smile cutting across his face without ever touching his eyes. "I've been cooperative," Sarah answered calmly. "I've simply been waiting." 40 minutes of waiting. That's patience. Real patience. Makes me wonder why you're so calm. He gestured to Vega. Check the trunk. Sir, do you have probable cause? I said check it. Vega popped the trunk, rummaged through her belongings and dragged out a camera bag, recording gear and a leather notebook. Briggs flipped it open, reading aloud. Local businesses pay monthly fees to police officers, between $500 and $5,000. He raised an eyebrow. What's this? My work, Sarah said. Protected by federal law. I'm a journalist. A journalist. He handed the notebook to Vega, his smirk widening. Hear that, boys? We got ourselves a journalist. Where from? New York? California? I'm freelance, she replied. Freelance, he echoed, stretching the word like it was poison. And you're down here writing about me? I'm writing about the community, Sheriff. Asking questions. Briggs leaned closer, his smile thin and dangerous. Then let me give you some answers. Briggs's hand shot out fast as lightning. Before Sarah could even raise her phone to record, he yanked it from her grip. He held it up to the crowd like a trophy. You want to document something, he said. Then he hurled it against the ground once, twice, a third time. The screen cracked, then shattered, tiny shards scattering across the pavement. The murmurs of the crowd rippled like a wave. A woman gasped and covered her mouth. A teenager lowered his own phone, torn between fear and defiance. But no one stepped forward. Sarah swallowed hard. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her voice stayed even. That's destruction of personal property. I'll need your badge number for the complaint I'll be filing. Briggs laughed, a sharp, ugly sound that cut through the dry air. You can file it from a cell. He nodded at Vega. Cuff her. On what charge? Briggs didn't blink. Assaulting an officer. She swung at Deputy Vega. I saw it, he saw it. Garza saw it. He gestured at another deputy who had arrived in the second patrol car. That's 3 statements against yours. Guess who the jury's going to believe? Sarah didn't resist as the cuffs snapped around her wrists. She let them push her forward, the sun scorching her skin, the metal biting into her bones. She took in every detail. The gas station attendant ducking behind the counter. The family hustling their kids back into their van. The teenager's phone raised shakily until Deputy Garza walked straight toward him. She noted the time glowing from the dashboard of the patrol car when they shoved her inside. 2:32 p.m. She burned it into memory. Through the dusty window, Sarah watched the crowd scatter, fear scattering with them. The old man who had shaken his head climbed into his truck and drove away quickly. The woman with the children dragged them by the hands, eyes cast down. This wasn't just fear. This was habit. This was survival. The patrol car smelled of stale sweat and burnt coffee. No dash camera. She spotted tape slapped over the lens mount. Of course. Deputy Vega slid into the driver's seat, glanced back at her in the mirror. His voice was quieter now, almost gentle. You should have just left town. Sarah held his gaze steady. How many others did you say that to? He said nothing. Just turned the key and the engine rumbled. They drove her through Oak Ridge's streets, past shuttered shops and quiet porches where curtains twitched and eyes looked out, but no doors opened. She saw her rental car still sitting at the pump, trunk wide open, her equipment scattered like trash, her shattered phone glinting in the sunlight. None of them knew about the micro recorder hidden in her jacket lining, or the backup phone tucked in her shoe. Every word since the stop had been transmitted to an FBI server 200 miles away. They thought they had silenced her. They hadn't. The police station looked less like a center of justice and more like a bunker. Squat brick, narrow windows, steel doors, a place designed to keep secrets in, not let sunlight through. Vega pulled around the back, out of sight from the street, away from anyone who might ask questions. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, painting everything sickly yellow-green. The air smelled like mildew and bleach trying to mask rot. They walked her past an empty front desk. Not a clerk, not a dispatcher. Just silence. Her boots squeaked against the linoleum floor. Beige walls streaked with water stains closed in around her. Old photos of past sheriffs lined the hallway. Briggs's portrait sat larger than the rest, centered, his face younger but no less menacing. They brought her to the interrogation room. A steel table, 2 chairs, and a camera mount on the wall. No camera. Just the bracket where one should have been. Sit, Vega ordered. She sat. The chair was cold even through denim. I need to make a phone call. I'm entitled to one, Sarah said. The phone system's down. Vega answered without hesitation. Might be back in a few hours. Might not. The door shut behind him, the click echoing finality. Alone, cuffed, Sarah counted her breaths. Then her eyes swept the room. No two-way mirror, too obvious. But there would be audio. Maybe several hidden pickups. She spotted a faint black circle inside the vent. A lens, maybe a microphone. Probably both. She shifted in her chair, tested the handcuffs. She could slip them if she needed to. She'd been trained. But not yet. Not until they believed she was helpless. She waited. Waiting was her weapon. 90 minutes later, the door opened. Sheriff Briggs entered with a manila folder. He tossed it on the table. The slap echoed off the concrete walls. You know what this is? Sarah said nothing. Your file. He flipped it open, lips curling as he read aloud. Sarah Blake, 29 years old. Last known address, Austin. Arrest history. Activism. Disorderly conduct. Trespassing. Assault. Her eyes stayed steady. That file is fabricated. Is it? He leaned down close enough she could smell the stale aftershave on his skin. Or are you just the kind of person who thinks rules don't apply to her? I'd like to speak with a lawyer, she said, phone still down. Then a superior officer. Texas Rangers, perhaps. His smile was all teeth. You don't get it, do you? There's no cavalry coming. You're in my house now. He slid into the chair opposite her like they were old friends. I've dealt with women like you before, journalists, activists, bleeding hearts. They think they'll expose me. They always leave with their tails tucked. He pushed the folder closer, letting the fake reports spread across the steel surface. Here's how this works. You sign a statement admitting you lied. You get out of Oak Ridge. Or you don't sign, and we show you just how creative our justice system can be. He stood, folder in hand, and walked toward the door. His hand lingered on the knob. I run this town. Not the FBI, not the Rangers, me, only me. The door slammed. Hours later, they moved her to a cell. 8 feet by 8. A steel bench bolted to the wall. A toilet with no seat, no window. The air pressed down like a furnace. 95 degrees and climbing. She hadn't been offered water. Her wrists were raw. Her throat burned. This was intimidation, pure and simple. And she had been trained for worse. When the deputy came to check on her, Sarah made her choice. She stood. Her voice was calm, steady. I need to speak with Sheriff Briggs. Vega hesitated. You ready to sign the statement? I'm ready to clarify my situation. 15 minutes later, Briggs appeared at the bars. That smirk still plastered across his face. You wanted to talk? Sarah reached down, pulled off her left shoe and peeled back the insole. Thin, flat, polished by months of hiding. Her badge. She held it up between two fingers. Special Agent Sarah Blake, FBI, San Antonio Field Office. Badge number 7752, you're in violation of federal law. Assault on a federal officer. Illegal detention, obstruction. For a heartbeat, Briggs's eyes flickered with doubt. Then unbelievably, he laughed. He threw his head back and roared. Martinez! Get in here. You gotta see this. The deputies crowded at the door as Sarah held the badge steady. For the first time, doubt rippled through the room, but doubt wouldn't be enough. Deputy Martinez stepped forward first. Younger than Briggs, maybe early 30s, but his eyes betrayed hesitation. He leaned closer to examine the badge in Sarah's hand. It looks real, he muttered. Briggs snatched it back, holding it up under the buzzing fluorescent light. Real? He repeated, mocking the word. This is the kind of junk you can buy online for $20. I've seen better ones at costume shops. He turned it toward the deputies as if they were children needing proof. They laughed on cue, but not all of them looked convinced. Say it again, Deputy Garza said, pulling out his phone to record. He pointed the lens straight at Sarah. Tell us you're FBI. She didn't blink. I am Special Agent Sarah Blake, FBI. If you call Assistant Special Agent Caldwell at the San Antonio Field Office and give him authentication code Sierra 7 Whiskey, he'll confirm my identity. Briggs repeated the code in a sing-song voice, mocking her. Sierra 7 Whiskey. Look at her, boys. She even memorized the lingo. The deputies laughed again, though Martinez's smile faded as he stared at the badge still in Briggs's hand. Briggs pulled out his phone, dialed a number with exaggerated theatrics and put it on speaker. San Antonio FBI Field Office, a woman's professional voice answered. This is Sheriff Tom Briggs, Oak Ridge Police. I need to verify if you have an agent named Sarah Blake assigned in our area. There was a pause. Then the woman replied evenly, I'm sorry, Sheriff, I have no record of that name in our personnel directory. Briggs ended the call, triumphant. He waved the badge. Amazon Special. 1995. The laughter this time was louder, crueler. Sarah felt her stomach twist, not from fear but from certainty. She knew the Bureau's rules. Undercover agents were never confirmed over open phone lines. Her identity could never be verified this way, and Briggs knew it. He'd engineered this performance to break her in front of everyone. The next morning, they released her. No paperwork, no explanation. Just shoved her belongings into her arms and warned her to leave Oak Ridge within 24 hours. She didn't leave. That evening, she walked into the town council meeting at Oak Ridge Town Hall, a squat building with faded brick and creaking wooden doors. Inside, about 50 residents filled the chamber: shop owners, ranch families, retirees. The smell of old paper and dust hung in the air. At the front table sat 5 council members, with Mayor Helen Cortez at the center. 60, silver hair in a tight bun, navy blazer stiff as armor. At her right, Councilman Garcia, expression unreadable. At her left, Councilman Rodriguez, eyes hard. And in the front row, Sheriff Briggs sat like a shadow. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smirk already playing on his lips when he spotted her enter. The meeting dragged on through budget numbers, road maintenance, zoning approvals. Sarah sat in silence, waiting. Her turn came when the mayor announced the public comment period. She rose, walked to the center microphone. Every head turned. "State your name for the record," Mayor Cortez said coolly. "Sarah Blake. I'm here to report an incident of illegal detention, destruction of property, and abuse of authority by members of the Oak Ridge Police Department." A ripple went through the crowd. Whispers, a few sharp intakes of breath. The mayor removed her glasses, folded them carefully on the table. "Miss Blake, the council is aware you were detained yesterday for assaulting an officer. If you have a complaint, you may file it through the appropriate channels." "This forum is the appropriate channel," Sarah countered, her voice clear. "I was arrested under false pretenses. My property was destroyed, and I was threatened with fabricated charges. I have evidence." "What evidence?" Cortez's tone was silk over steel. "My phone was smashed in front of witnesses. My camera bag was seized. I can provide sworn testimony." "Testimony is for courtrooms, Miss Blake," the mayor cut in. "This is a town council meeting. We don't adjudicate here, and according to the report, all your belongings were returned this morning undamaged." "That's false," Sarah said, holding up the cheap replacement phone she'd purchased that morning. "The original was destroyed." Councilman Rodriguez leaned forward. "You were processed according to protocol, arrested on probable cause, released in less than 24 hours. That is standard procedure." She scanned the faces in the room. Blank, downcast, silent. Then her eyes caught a woman near the back, a mother she remembered from the gas station, the same one who had clutched her children tightly while tears welled in her eyes. Now she sat stiff, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles whitened, eyes fixed on the floor. Sarah steadied her voice. "I know other journalists have tried to report on Oak Ridge law enforcement in recent years. What happened to them?" "They left," the mayor said simply. "Just as you should. Because they were harassed. Because they realized they couldn't fight alone. Because they were threatened. Because there was nothing to find," Mayor Cortez replied sharply. "Oak Ridge is a peaceful town. Sheriff Briggs has kept it safe for over 2 decades. Crime is low. Residents are satisfied." Briggs stood then, turning to face the crowd. "What the mayor means to say is we don't take kindly to outsiders spreading lies, especially outsiders flashing fake FBI badges." Laughter broke out among some in the audience. Nervous, forced. Mayor Cortez raised her gavel. "This is your final warning, Miss Blake. Leave Oak Ridge. There is nothing for you here." She struck the gavel once, sharp and final. Meeting adjourned. The council members gathered their papers. Briggs brushed past her on his way out, tipping 2 fingers in mock salute. She stood at the microphone for a long moment, the whispers buzzing around her, the weight of eyes pressing down. No one moved to stand with her. She left the chamber with her heart hammering but her resolve unbroken. Outside, a banner hung over the hall's entrance. "Oak Ridge? 20 years of safe community." She pulled out her phone, snapped a photo. Evidence. The truth was alive in this town, buried under silence and fear, and she was going to dig it out no matter how deep it ran. The building that once housed the Oak Ridge Herald still stood on East Mason Street, its windows boarded, its sign sun-bleached and curling. The town's newspaper had gone silent 5 years ago. leaving only rumors and whispers in its place. Behind it, in the cracked asphalt of the lot, Sarah found a man bent over the open hood of a beat-up Chevy pickup. Carlos Ruiz, 38. Stocky. Grease on his arms up to the elbows. A mobile mechanic now, with a magnetic sign slapped on the side of his truck advertising his services. When her shadow fell across the engine bay, he didn't look up. "Not taking new customers today." "I'm not looking for a mechanic," Sarah said evenly. "My name is—" "I know who you are." He finally glanced at her, eyes sharp, tired. "You're the fake FBI agent who got herself arrested." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not fake. Don't matter. That's what people believe. And in this town, belief is everything. Now walk away before someone sees you talking to me." She stepped closer. "You were a deputy. Oak Ridge PD. Dismissed last year. Insubordination." That got his attention. His jaw clenched. He slammed the hood shut with a metallic bang. "Who told you that?" "Public records," she replied calmly. "You refused an order? What order?" His voice had an edge now, like a man torn between anger and fear. "The kind of order that made you dangerous to Briggs." Carlos grabbed a rag, wiped his hands with quick, angry movements. "Listen, lady, I don't know what you think you're doing, but whatever it is, you need to stop. Right now." "I know what I'm doing," Sarah said. "I'm trying to expose what's happening here." He laughed once, harsh. "Expose Briggs? You think you're the first? I've seen 8 people come sniffing around. Journalists, activists. You know where they are now? Gone. They either ran or they got swallowed." He jabbed the rag toward her. "You want to die? Keep asking questions." "I want to stop this," she countered. "You're not going to." "Nobody does. That man owns this town." Carlos turned away, started loading tools into his box. Sarah felt the chance slipping, but she pressed on. "I can protect you. If you testify, if you tell the truth, I can get you into witness protection. You and your family. New life, safe." He froze for a moment, then turned back, eyes dark. "You got a family, Agent Blake?" Her silence was answer enough. "I do. A wife, 2 kids. You're asking me to burn their lives down. You're asking me to put a target on them forever. You call that protection?" He slammed the toolbox shut. "No, you don't understand. Around here, when you testify, you don't live long enough to see the inside of a courtroom." He climbed into his truck. She pulled out her badge, the real one this time, holding it up to the windshield as he started the engine. He didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. He just drove off. Sarah stood there in the lot, heart sinking. Then 20 minutes later, she heard the same engine again. The same truck pulled back in. Carlos sat behind the wheel for a long time, staring at the ground. Finally, he stepped out. He looked older than he had an hour before. "Let me see that badge again," he said quietly. She handed it to him. He turned it over, ran his thumb across the raised seal. His face shifted, something breaking in him. He exhaled heavily, handed it back. "You really FBI?" "Yes, you've been here all this time?" 18 months? She nodded. Carlos leaned against the truck, rubbing the back of his neck. "All right, I'll talk, but not here." They drove separately to a rest stop 15 miles out of town. Empty picnic tables. A vending machine humming in the corner. Carlos bought a Coke, drank half of it in silence before speaking. "The system works like this. Briggs and his men stop migrants. Doesn't matter if they've got papers or not. They threaten deportation unless they pay. $5,000 a person. If they can't pay, they get forced into work. Ranches, construction, cleaning houses, no wages. Work off the debt." Sarah had her backup recorder running. Every word mattered. "How long has this been happening?" "As long as I was there." "Probably longer. 20 years maybe. And the money, offshore, came in accounts. He's got records. Old school. Paper ledger. Names, amounts, dates." Her pulse quickened. "Where's the ledger?" "Locked in a safe in his office. Only 2 keys. Briggs and Mayor Cortez, you've seen it?" "Once, didn't know what I was looking at. But after I started asking questions, that's when he decided I was a problem. 3 weeks later, I was fired." Carlos crushed the Coke can flat in his hand. She leaned forward. "Will you testify?" His laugh was bitter. "Testify? You're not hearing me. They'll kill me, and they won't stop with me. They'll kill my wife, my kids. Not if I get you into protection. Witness security. New names. New lives." He shook his head. "You don't get it. That's not living. That's exile. I'm not dragging my family into hiding forever." Sarah locked eyes with him. I need that ledger, Carlos. It's the piece that makes everything else undeniable. Without it, they can twist the story. With it, they can't. He stared at the horizon. The sky was bleeding orange and pink as the sun sank low. Give me time, he muttered. I'll think about it. While you think, Sarah said, understand this. Every single conversation I've had in Oak Ridge, every threat, every deal, every word, recorded, transmitted in real time. They can smash my phone, burn my bag, tear this whole town apart, but the evidence is already safe, backed up, untouchable. Carlos studied her for a long time. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, he said finally, or the dumbest. Sarah didn't answer. Because the truth was, she wasn't sure which one she was either. That night, she parked 3 blocks from Town Hall, a clear sight line to the second floor. One window still glowed with light. Mayor Cortez's office. She slipped in her earpiece, tuned to the faint signal from the microphone hidden in the bag they thought they had locked. Way, rustling, footsteps, voices, then Briggs's growl. Need to talk about the Blake woman. Sarah's hand tightened around her pen. She pressed record. The night was about to deliver what she had waited 18 months to hear. The signal was faint, filtered through cinder block and drywall, but it was enough. Sarah hunched over her notebook, writing down every word as the muffled voices spilled into her earpiece. She's handled, Briggs muttered. Scared her off. By tomorrow, she'll be gone. You're certain? That was Mayor Cortez. Her voice was sharp, commanding. She seemed persistent at the council meeting. Trust me, Briggs said with smug certainty. They always leave. The fake FBI badge was clever, though. I'll give her that. Papers rustled. Cortez's voice came clearer now. Did she actually have evidence? Nothing that matters. Some scribbles in a notebook. A broken phone. Martinez locked up her bag. It's in evidence. She's got nothing. Sarah's pen scratched furiously across the page. Each word was fuel. Good, Cortez said briskly. We can't afford another incident like the reporter in 2021. That was too close. Doesn't count, Briggs scoffed. He left. They all leave. Then came the moment Sarah had been waiting for. Next group arrives Tuesday, Briggs said. 15 people, 5,000 each. 75,000, Cortez calculated. Split 2 ways. 37.5 apiece. Cayman account. Same as last time. Same routing number, Briggs confirmed. Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't implication. This was confession, extortion, money laundering, human exploitation, all of it in their own voices transmitted straight to an FBI server in Dallas. She leaned back in the driver's seat, heart pounding, knowing she'd just caught them. For 18 months she had collected fragments, pieces, whispers. Now she had the core of the machine, the beating heart of corruption laid bare. Hours later, in the dead of night, she called her supervisor. The voice of Assistant Special Agent Caldwell came through low and cautious. Lane, status report. Sir, I have it. Recorded confession from Briggs and Cortez. Direct mention of offshore accounts. Extortion payments. I also have a potential witness. Former Deputy Carlos Ruiz. He's seen the ledger. He can confirm the system. There was a pause, too long, too measured. Good work, Caldwell said. Now abort. Extract immediately, Sarah blinked. Abort? Sir, with respect, I'm 1 step away from the ledger itself. That's a smoking gun. That makes the case unbreakable. You've been compromised, Caldwell cut her off. They know you're investigating. The situation is too dangerous. We'll build the case from Washington. Extract within 48 hours. That's an order. The call ended. Sarah sat in silence, her knuckles white around the steering wheel. Something in his tone gnawed at her. Too quick. Too eager to pull her out when she was closer than ever. 3 hours later, her phone buzzed. A text from Carlos. They know. Briggs called me. Said he knows I met with you today. He knows what we talked about. You've been compromised. Get out, Sarah called him immediately. His whisper was ragged with fear. He knew the time. The place. The rest stopped. How could he know that unless someone told him? Her stomach dropped. She pulled up her encrypted FBI email, scrolling through the logs. Her last report to Caldwell forwarded, not to headquarters, not to Washington, to the county district attorney's office. And from there, forwarded again, oakridgepd.gov, recipient initials, TB Tom Briggs. Her hands shook as she read. Every report she'd filed, every interview, every piece of intel for the past 6 months had been leaking straight into Briggs's hands. Caldwell wasn't protecting her. He was feeding her to them. Sarah scrolled further. District Attorney Henry Blake, born in Oak Ridge, nephew of Mayor Cortez. A family web. Connections tying back decades. And Caldwell? His campaign donations traced to shell companies routed through Cayman accounts. The same network Briggs bragged about. The realization hit like a blade. The corruption didn't stop at the town limits. It ran into the county, into the state, even into the bureau. She was alone. That night she made a choice. She couldn't trust her chain of command. She couldn't trust the courts. She couldn't trust anyone wearing a badge in Texas, so she made a call outside the system. Priya Mehta, an investigative journalist known for torching entire police departments with a single expose. The line rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. This better be good. It's 4 a.m. My name is Sarah Blake. I'm an FBI agent with 18 months of evidence documenting systemic corruption in Oak Ridge, Texas. My office is compromised. I need a journalist who can't be bought, who can't be scared. There was silence. Then Priya's voice sharpened. I'm listening. At dawn, they met in a diner 40 miles outside Oak Ridge. Sarah slid into a booth, ordered coffee, and laid it all out. Audio files, victims, bank records, names. Priya didn't blink. She just leaned forward, her eyes hard. You want me to publish this? I want you to help me go public. Press conference, live stream, something no one can bury. Friday, 10 a.m., Austin. Priya studied her a long moment, then extended her hand across the table. I'm in. For the first time in months, Sarah felt something close to hope. But hope was fragile, and she knew Briggs wasn't finished yet. Wednesday morning came with smoke. Sarah woke in her motel room to the sound of sirens and rushed outside, following them to the Oak Ridge police station. Flames chewed through the back of the building. Thick, black smoke billowing from shattered windows. Fire crews fought to contain it. But she didn't need to ask where the blaze had started. The evidence room. She parked 2 blocks away and watched. Sheriff Briggs stood in the lot, arms folded, face calm, almost satisfied, while his deputies played the part of concerned public servants. He wasn't worried. He was cleaning house. Her phone rang. Unknown number.
Agent Blake?
Deputy Chief Martinez, Oak Ridge Fire Department, calling as a courtesy. The fire began in evidence storage. Most items lost. 'Cause appears electrical. I'm very sorry. Sarah hung up. She knew better. There had been no electrical failure. The bag with the hidden microphone was gone, burned. But Briggs didn't know the truth. Every recording had already been transmitted. They could torch the room, torch the whole town, and it wouldn't erase the evidence. By afternoon, a text lit up her phone. No signature. You have 24 hours to leave Oak Ridge. If you are here Friday morning, you will not leave alive. This is your final warning. She deleted it, sat back on the edge of her bed. Fear churned in her gut, but it was laced with something sharper. Defiance. They wanted her gone because she was winning. Thursday morning, the local news broke the counterattack. A press conference with District Attorney Henry Blake. Clean suit, American flag backdrop. His voice somber. A woman claiming to be an FBI agent has been harassing local law enforcement. Records show she was dismissed from FBI training years ago for mental instability. She has impersonated a federal officer. We are coordinating with the Bureau to bring charges. Sarah sat in the motel breakfast room, coffee in hand, watching her own reputation crumble on live television. Lies stacked neatly, presented with authority, and people would believe them. Her phone buzzed. Priya, they're painting you as unstable. My editors rattled. Legal is already saying this press conference might be too risky. Then we go live ourselves, Sarah said, her voice steady even as her stomach turned. Friday, 10 a.m., with or without corporate backing. That's career suicide, Priya warned. Better than letting them win. That night she returned to her motel and found the door unlocked. Not forced, opened with a key. The room had been searched with surgical precision. Her suitcase unzipped, mattress flipped, her backup laptop gone. They wanted her to know they could reach her anywhere. She gathered what remained of her things and left, driving 30 miles west to a cheap roadside motel in Eagle Pass, paying cash using a false name. For hours she sat on the bed, staring at the ceiling, asking herself if it was worth it. 47 victims. 2 decades of abuse. Was it worth her life? She already knew the answer. Yes, near midnight an email arrived. Burner address. Subject line, final warning. The body was cold, clinical. Leave Oak Ridge by midnight Friday or you will not leave alive. This is not a threat. It is a promise. You have 12 hours. Her hands trembled as she read, but not from fear alone. Adrenaline surged, sharpening her thoughts. She drafted one final email, attaching every encrypted file she had gathered. She sent it to Priya, to Judge Delgado, to 3 other journalists she trusted. She set a dead man switch. If she failed to check in every 12 hours, the password would unlock. The truth would spill wide open. Friday morning, she left before sunrise, heading north toward Austin. Empty desert roads stretched ahead, the horizon blushing orange as the sun rose. Priya called. CNN's here. Tribune's here. Even the Post. Judge Delgado agreed to authenticate documents on camera. This is going to be huge. Sarah smiled faintly. I'll be there by 9. Then her rearview mirror lit up with flashing red and blue. A black Ford pickup closing fast. Light bar flashing. The Oak Ridge Sheriff's star stamped on the door. Her stomach dropped. Another vehicle pulled ahead, boxing her in. A third closed from behind. She slowed, heart pounding. She could run, but her sedan would never outrun 3 trucks. She pulled over onto the dirt shoulder, already reaching for her weapon. Sheriff Briggs stepped out of the lead truck. Not in uniform. Just jeans and a work shirt, no badge. Behind him, Deputy Vega and a thick-set man Sarah didn't recognize. Hired muscle. They yanked her from the car, disarmed her, zip-tied her hands, a hood over her head. The drive that followed was a blur of turns meant to disorient her. 20 minutes later, the hood came off inside a warehouse. Rust on the walls, broken windows leaking pale daylight. Briggs stood before her, holding a single sheet of paper. Sign this confession. You admit you fabricated everything. You apologize to me and my department. You leave Texas, do that, and you walk out. She spat the words like venom. No, don't sign, Briggs shrugged. And you die in a fire on some back road. Tragic accident. Happens all the time. He nodded. The hired man pulled a pistol. Sarah's heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. Wait, Briggs smirked. Changed your mind? No, I just wanted to make sure you heard me clearly. She lifted her wrists, showing the plain black sports watch she'd worn for 18 months. This isn't a watch. It's a tracker. Standard issue for undercover agents. It's been transmitting my location in real time since the moment you stopped me. Briggs froze, eyes narrowing. She's bluffing. Am I? Sarah's voice cut like steel. You pulled me over at 6:34 on Highway 84, mile marker 89. That was outside your jurisdiction. Kidnapping. And then you dragged me southwest for 20 minutes, which puts us in Maverick County. My distress beacon triggered the second my heart rate spiked. And when that happens, tactical teams don't wait for confirmation. They deploy. The silence in the warehouse grew thick. Then faintly in the distance came the sound of sirens, growing louder. No, Briggs whispered. Sarah smiled through the pounding of her pulse. Yes, the warehouse doors exploded inward. FBI, hands up. Agents in black stormed inside, rifles raised, precision in every movement. The hired gun dropped his weapon immediately. Deputy Vega threw up his hands, shaking. Briggs reached for his belt, but a rubber bullet slammed into his chest, knocking him flat. 30 seconds later, it was over. Briggs cuffed on the ground, cursing. His men pinned against the wall. The warehouse crawling with federal agents. A man in a windbreaker cut her zip ties. Silver hair, calm eyes. Special Agent Blake, Marcus Cole, Houston Field Office. You okay? She rubbed her wrists, exhaled. I'm fine. You've got a press conference to get to. Austin, 10 o'clock. The conference room was packed. Cameras rolling. Journalists shoulder to shoulder. Priya at the podium. What we present today is the result of an 18-month federal investigation into systemic corruption in Oak Ridge, Texas. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Sarah stepped onto the stage, badge in hand. She spoke clearly, directly into the lenses. My name is Special Agent Sarah Blake. For 18 months, I gathered audio recordings, financial documents, and testimony from dozens of victims. Sheriff Tom Briggs, Mayor Helen Cortez, and District Attorney Henry Blake orchestrated an extortion ring that preyed on immigrants and citizens alike. Today that ring ends. She held up a USB drive. This contains everything. It's been given to the Justice Department, the FBI director, and multiple news organizations. There is no burying this. Behind her, the screen lit up with slides. Bank records tied to Cayman accounts. Transcripts of their conversation. Video of Briggs in handcuffs. Mayor Cortez led out of town hall by agents, face pale. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed like lightning. 3 months later, Oak Ridge was a different place. Sheriff Rosa Mendoza raised her hand, sworn in as the town's first female sheriff. A woman once victimized by the very system she now vowed to dismantle. Reforms were underway: body cameras, civilian review boards, audits, and the fear that had silenced the streets was gone. Sarah stood in the back of the hall, watching children laugh, watching people walk with their heads high. She had fought for this moment with every ounce of her life, and now it was real. Later, at a small restaurant newly opened by a woman she'd once seen crying at a gas station, Sarah sat at a counter and ate carne asada while the woman hugged her and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." Sarah looked around the bustling room, at families who no longer feared the knock on the door, and she knew the fight wasn't over. Oak Ridge wasn't the only town. There were others. Other Briggs, other Cortezes, other victims waiting in silence. Justice wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But when it finally arrived, it was unstoppable. And Sarah Blake was not finished.